Hey there, friends. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast, where we dive deep into the world of motherhood and beyond. I'm your host, Shannon Warner, and I am excited to embark on this journey with all of you. Here's the deal. This podcast is your ultimate sanctuary, your sacred space to hit pause on the chaos of mom life and reconnect with the amazing woman behind the title of mom. Yep, it's all about those precious mom moments because, let's face it, we all need a little more time for ourselves. Am I right? So what can you expect from our time together? Well, picture this. We'll be soaking up wisdom from fellow moms, sharing their stories and triumphs and how they've tapped into alignment on their own motherhood journeys. It's like a mom-to-mom chat over coffee, with a sprinkle of inspiration and a dash of humor thrown in for good measure. We're here to light up your soul, to remind you of your incredible power, and to celebrate the unique spark that makes you, you. Because when we take care of ourselves, we become unstoppable forces for good in the lives of those we love. So join me as we laugh, learn, and rediscover the magic of this crazy ride called motherhood together. Get ready for your weekly dose of connection and encouragement, because around here, we don't just mom. We mom with purpose and power in alignment with our true selves. Stay tuned, my friends. The adventure starts now. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner. And like I say every single time, but I truly mean, I am just so honored that you've taken your precious time out of your busy day to hang out with me here today. I hope all things are beautiful in your world, and I'm excited to share another guest episode with you. And this one really got me fired up, which is so interesting because the guest and I, although we have similarities, our day-to-day lives look very different. But she touches on something at the end that's gotten me super fired up, and it was just too good of a rabbit hole to go down in this episode. But I think it's a topic that will definitely be on the podcast in the future because I think it is so needed. So I'm going to stick another pin in that, just like I did at the end of this conversation, but we are not done with that. So today's guest is Kathryn Garland. She's a wife and mother, which she says are the badges that she wears the proudest. She has always wanted to be those two people and is greatly blessed with 4 amazing children. As Kathryn got more entrenched in motherhood, she began to realize how much more important being a homemaker was than she ever imagined. Her mission and her purpose is to help people see the power of the home and the possibilities that come from a safe and grounded home in the heart, in relationships, in the physical dwelling, and the true magic we can create from this place. Kathryn is a teacher by training, turned homeschooling mama, lifelong learner, and farmer's wife. She lives a life dreams are made of in British Columbia, Canada. No surprise that Kathryn is a former teacher. It's so interesting the way we're drawn to each other. We don't lead with, hey, I used to be a teacher. How about you? We just keep bumping into each other. I think we operate on a similar vibration, especially the women who have decided to leave the profession for whatever reason. And if you're thinking about leaving the field of education, go a couple of episodes back and listen to my conversation with Brittany Cates. We talk all about that there. But I think there's a vibration that we have of women who have left the field. For whatever the reason, we have decided that we are no longer available for what that offers us. And I think similar types of women enter education. So it's interesting that I keep bumping into these women. I think there have been, at least 4 on the podcast. No, it's more than that. Gosh, there's got to be between 6 or 10. I don't know. There's so many. I just bump into them everywhere. All that to say, Kathryn and I have a lot in common, but we are also very different. But there are things and experiences that we all share as mothers, and something that has been on my heart lately is how divisive motherhood can be. Working mom versus stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom versus public school mom versus private school mom versus, mom of one child, mom of multiples, mom of 5 children, so on and so forth. We live in a culture where we are so focused on each other's differences. When friends, we as moms especially, we need to come together. We are so powerful when we recognize the similarities that we have. And I want to ask you, where did this division come from? Where did the us versus them, working mom versus stay-at-home mom, where did that come from? And why are we perpetuating it? And who is it serving? Who is it serving to devalue the woman who stays at home and cares for her children full time, which is not an easy feat? Why are we chinning the mom who loves her career and wants to go to work every day? Or the mom whose circumstances dictate that she needs to go to work to provide, but she'd rather be home with her children? Friends, we are so much more powerful when we come together. I was not expecting to stand on that soapbox in this moment, but apparently I needed to come out. And I think there will be more conversations like that and more episodes around those themes in the future. And I've got some things on my heart that kind of nod to that ideal as well. And I'm excited to see how they unfold and where that adventure may take me and take the podcast and take the work that I do in the future. So stick around. That should be exciting. All of this to say, I don't care what your background is. I love you. I see you. I see you in the thick of motherhood. I see you doing the best that you can. I see you wanting the best for your children. I see where you struggle. I see that you're exhausted sometimes. I see that you're wanting more. And I also believe that you are so worthy of all of the things that you want, regardless of your current circumstances. And we are so worthy of living truly aligned lives and living in a community and in a sisterhood where we're supporting each other and not tearing each other down. We all deserve it. Okay. I'm so excited to share this episode with my new friend, Kathryn. I hope you love it as much as I did. Hi, Kathryn. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I'm so grateful we're doing this.
Me too. Kathryn and I have had the chance to chat a bit. We run in a similar circle. She reached out to me though first, and we did not know that we knew similar people and that we were in the same circle, which is always fun. And she's a former teacher. So naturally we were attracted to one another because that's just the way this works. So I love it. I can't wait to get into all the magic you're putting out into the world with your own podcast. We love women who podcast. We love women using their voice and getting their voices out there to share their own stories and share the stories of other women. I think it's so powerful. But before we do that, do you mind telling us a bit about your own motherhood journey and how it's kind of led to where you are today?
Hmm. That is such a big question. Um, I'll try and be briefish. So yeah, I'm a mama of four. My eldest is almost 12, my youngest is 6.5. And I always wanted to be a mom from like as long as I can remember. People would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I hated that question because my answer was always mom. And they'd be like, "Well, no, but like, what do you actually want to do?" And I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so I spent a lot of years trying to like get there. Not get there in the sense of like have a family, but like get there in the sense of like I wanted to be home. I didn't want to be working. I didn't want to be doing other things. I wanted to be home with my babies. But my husband was in school for a little bit longer than me, just the way his journey went. And so, I was the breadwinner for a bit. And so I couldn't just be home and like these sorts of things. But once I had my first child, so I was a teacher, like you said, and teaching was fantastic until I had my first child. And once I had my first child, I really was like, no, this does not fill my soul anymore. I don't want to be with other people's kids and send mine to someone else. I want to be with mine. So then it was just this slow progression of paring down from like full time to part time to less part time to supply teaching. While I could, as my husband's career started, and financially, really, it came down to financially, we could do it. That makes the world go round. That's the beast that we have to deal with, right?
100%. Yes.
So as I could do that and then I felt like, but then I kept feeling this push, like you're supposed to, you're supposed to, you're supposed to. So, I started real estate thinking, okay, I can make some money and I can still be present. Bless all the real estate agents who are parents, because I don't know how you do it. Because although you can work part-time and all this, you can't really set your own schedule. You're at the mercy of when your phone rings or when the deal's going down and you're interrupting family dinner, family walks, or what have you. And that wasn't for me. And so I was just always searching for something until finally I got to the point where I was like, no, what I'm searching for is to homeschool my children and be with them almost always. I do need breaks. I am human, but be with them as most of the time
Yeah.
and just be this like cultivator of the home for my family in the like very present, I'm here all the time sort of way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I love having this conversation because one, I am the complete opposite of you. But I think it is so important for women like us to have this conversation and be like, look, we can still be friends. Like we can still have things in common. And it's not you versus I, us versus them, working moms versus stay-at-home moms. Like friends, we mothers need to unite. Like we're at the end of the day, we're actually more similar than we realize. So I'm sure that's going to come through in this conversation as well. But I'm interested to know more. I know a bit about you, of course, already, but want you to share more because I know the life that you're living would make me rip my hair out. And I love it for you, but I know that my head would explode. It's not for me. So tell me more about what life looks like for you now with your 4 children and your homeschooling and your homesteading, correct?
Yeah.
This is a whole
Yep.
thing.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. We really do like from home in like
Yeah.
every way.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to preface with there was many years where I thought that I was like my kids are less than from start to finish. I had 4 in under 5.5 years. Like they're
Wow.
close. That was also like that was intentional. I always said I wanted them to be close, and then it happened, and I went like life was a blur, and I got really tired and really overwhelmed, as I'm sure people can relate to or imagine. And I had a moment when it was first put to me to homeschool, and I wasn't there. Like my eldest 2 went to school for kindergarten and grade 1 and part of grade 2 and then part of kindergarten for the other one. And I remember saying to someone, for all I remember was my husband, I just remember saying out loud, no, if I can't send them somewhere, I will eat my young. Like I will be the lion who just devours them whole. I can't do it. And I remember talking to another homeschool mom, and she was like, but you can if you want to. And that stuck with me because like that was in relation to homeschooling and my journey and what have you. But the thing about motherhood is everything is you can if you want to. Like it's if it's a priority for you to have a career and be fully present with your kids, you can. If it's a priority
Mhm.
for you, like it doesn't matter what your priority is, you can if you want to.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even remember your question because I just felt like I had to say that.
Oh no, that is
Sorry.
so good. Thank you for saying that. That was beautiful. I was just asking about what your life looks like when you
All
are
right.
so much of life at home with your
Yeah.
children at home and homeschooling and homesteading. And it
Yes,
looks
yes,
like
yes.
maybe your husband works from home too. Hey, husband.
Yeah, it's true. He just came down and brought me a coffee. Yeah.
That's so
Thank you.
sweet.
Yeah. No, weird. Well, it looks like it sounds like honestly, we are just home all the time and we're just trying to find our rhythm. So my husband has been off work for a couple of years. So like that's part of why homesteading is feasible for us right now
Mm,
to the extent that we do it because I could not homeschool. There are lots of people out there who do it, and this is one of those things, know your limits. I could not homestead to this extent, that what we have going on, and homeschool 4 children and be sane. So the fact that he's home, he does the lion's share of outside, I do the lion's share of inside. It works really well for us with some overlap because we're all here. But our priorities are like chores and being together. Like Sundays are always a family day. We do family dinners 90% of the week. We like it's just we're always together, and that's like our priority. And then we go here and we go there, and we friends come over and what have you. We're not just like just
right,
home. Like
right.
some people think homesteading is just here, but like um and then I really like a lot of people ask me what our rhythm is for homeschooling, and I don't have one. They get up when they get up, and they have to do math 3 days a week, and they have to do reading every day of the week, and they have to do some language arts 3 days a week. And that's really all I do for school. And they kind of set their pace and set their rhythm. Like last year, we just lost motivation around the end of May. And I was like, okay, so you're not finishing grade 6 math in grade 6. So be it. We'll finish it next year. It's not the end of the world. And that's something that I really struggle with, especially as a former teacher, because I have the benchmarks so
Mm-hmm.
ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, we need to know how to insert skill here by the end, by middle of grade 5 or whatever. And like, we don't. When are you ever going to sit in a boardroom and someone say to you, did you have all your multiplications tables memorized by the end of grade
Right.
2? Nobody's
Yeah.
going to ask you. So like, I have
Right.
to really like hold on to that's when you're in the system, that's fine and that works and that's necessary. And when you're not, we just really try and like pull back and go with the flow and let them lead. They all are responsible for chores. Like they have animals or things outside that they are 100% responsible for. We check up on them. But like my eldest son is goats. He does everything to do with the goats, from like mucking out stalls to filling feed bags to making sure they have water. If they dump their water, it's his job to refill in the middle of the day. All these sorts of things. Like it's just they have their responsibilities. And I view that as school. They've learned tons of science that way, of course.
Totally.
And there's like so much responsibility and autonomy built right into that, that it's just like, to me, that's school.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that we have this homestead and we are doing so much of life from home, it just, I feel like really, it just augments their childhood in a really unique way that really works for us.
Mm-hmm. I want to echo, you said by the end of May it was done. It wasn't happening. Even in the classroom at the end of May, your kids are done. They're toast, they're fried. And
Mhm.
benchmarks are there to try to keep everyone on the same pace because you have to when you've got a class of 30 kids, 4 sections of it in your school alone, and there's 7 schools in the district or whatever. It's just there is a time and place for benchmarks, but it's beautiful that you have the flexibility with your kids to be like,
Mhm.
okay, we're gonna set it down. And also the loss over the summer, it's okay if they don't hit it at the end of the year because they'll get it again at the next year, at the beginning of the next year, or wherever it falls in the curriculum again. But you've also got the flexibility too, if there's space in your summer to be like, hey, now we can work on this. And the experiential hands-on learning is so powerful as well. As you know, my first question is, does this reflect the life that you grew up in, or did you grow up with a different experience?
I'm shaking my head and chuckling. No, this does not reflect my childhood. Um, Bless my parents. They're fantastic and so very like, they're very city. They we had guinea pigs briefly. Like we didn't do
Okay.
pets, we didn't do dogs and cats. My dad grew up with like cats, but my mom um didn't ever want anything in the house really. And I remember correctly now, I was pretty young when we got the guinea pigs, but if I remember correctly, and again, memories are subjective, but I'm pretty sure the guinea pigs arrived one time when my mom was at work and she wasn't thrilled about it.
Oh,
um,
yikes.
I think that they talked about it and didn't come to a conclusive decision, and that maybe there was a disconnect. I don't know, but I don't think my mom was prepared for guinea pigs when they showed up. So like we didn't grow up with animals. My dad gardened. I didn't really participate because gardening's not my favorite. Um, I helped him plant, but that's about it. And like, my brother and I went to school. We didn't do like the before school and after school care so much because my mom was a part-time nurse. So we had like a babysitter around the corner from us that we went to sometimes, and then my grandparents would sometimes come over and make us dinner. So we
Mm-hmm.
didn't do like that part, like the daycare part so much. But other than that, we we were more what you'd call typical, I guess, where
Yeah.
we just were in the city and we went to school. We did the
Okay.
things, you know. My brother played
Right.
sports, I danced, like, yeah.
I dance too. I knew I liked you. Former teachers, former dancers. I love it.
Yeah.
So, what was the jumping off point where you're like, okay, I know I want to bring my kids home. I want them to be schooled by me at home. Where did the homestead piece come into this? Was this before, after? Were they connected? Did you have to make a move to
Mhm.
be on homestead?
We definitely chose to make a move, I guess had to, and chose to, are subjective. Where we were living in southern Ontario, and just land is so expensive there. So we just couldn't afford what we wanted there where we were. And the as far out as we would have to branch to get what we wanted, like you're starting to deal with nasty bugs and things
Mm,
like that that we didn't want to deal with. So, and I wanted to change, and it took a couple of years before my husband went, yeah, okay, I want to change too. And then eventually we just decided to move. So now we're in British Columbia. So a pretty decent move from Ontario to British Columbia.
yeah.
Um, and did they go hand in hand? If you looked at our life from the outside, it probably looks like it because they happened on a fairly similar timeline. We pulled the kids out of school maybe a year and a half before we were on the homestead, and we started talking about it really soon after we pulled them out. But that was more coincidence. I
Okay.
had wanted to be out of the city for quite some time. Like I said, my husband just wasn't there. Um, and I wanted to homeschool for a while too before we did it. But I wanted to homestead before I wanted to homeschool. The two journeys didn't really they didn't intentionally coincide. However, everything happens for a reason. We didn't get on the homestead sooner because we weren't ready to homeschool sooner because, right? So it it has just the way, because we then moved so close to when we went on the homestead, and because of all these things, I think like transitioning the older ones out of school was easier because they weren't missing their friends because we moved anyway, and they weren't like, these sorts of things weren't happening because of the way the timelines kind of jived. So it was such a blessing to do it that way by accident, because it made the transition for everyone a little bit easier. And then, I mean, we got our stuff here fast and furious. I have a joke that I have one speed, and it's like fast.
Yeah.
So it was like we were here for 4 months, and I informed my husband we were going to pick up some free chickens, and he went, "Oh." It was like 6 weeks later, and I was like, "By the way, I bought ducks." Like a couple months later, I was like, "Oh, I'm selling the hot tub to buy cows.
Oh
I
my
want some beef
gosh.
cows." And like I just was
Wow.
like, boom. And he was, I think I overwhelmed him, but he never said no to anything. He never like was like, no, 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 no. So it couldn't have been so bad. But it was just, so it was like fast, but also easing the kids into this like different rhythm where we were on the land for a little bit. And then we just had some chickens. So we collected eggs sometimes. And then we had some ducks. So we had, these other things to play with. And then it was just, and now they're just so, my youngest was 3 when we moved, so she doesn't really remember city life. And she'll, one of my favorite images of her is the one day she came to the door and she bangs on the door, and I was, what's wrong? Because she's clearly distraught. She goes, I hate living here. And I said, why? She goes, too many animals. But she had like a bunny in her pocket, a chicken under one arm, and a cat tucked in her coat. I was like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all.
Oh
You
my
like it, I
gosh.
think.
Oh
But
my
she was mad
gosh.
that someone like pooped on her or something, or she stepped in poo. I don't remember. It was like she was upset about something poop related because we have
Fair.
animals. It happens. So I just think that the way they coincided was exactly perfect, even though it wasn't intentional.
So interesting. I love hearing about lives like yours because I'm just in awe. I'm just in awe. I am maxed out with my 2 children, my dog, and my cat. I have a small garden in the back, and it is more than enough for me. So just seeing people with this capacity for this lifestyle, I'm like, wow, fascinating. Okay, so how did your podcast come about? Tell us the podcast story and what kind of magic you're sharing over there.
So I feel like my life, I've always wanted to be home. I feel like I got this thought out, but I've always wanted to be home, like I said. And I just felt like I had things to say. And I have like, I'm interested in this and this and this and this. And I'm like, I'm a dabbler. And I want to know everything about everything, even though obviously that's impossible, but I want to know everything about everything. And, like I'll do deep dives into, I don't know, natural health, this, and then we'll go over here and I'll do a deep dive into like how to care for ducks, and then, you know what I mean, just all the things, and what's the best way to teach math or whatever, right? And I I was having a hard time because I was like interested in all these things, and I was like, and I just wanted to talk about them with people who also were interested in all these things. And so many people were like, you should have a blog, you should have a blog. And I just don't like writing.
Mm,
I just don't. It is, I have like a history, German and French degree, so you can imagine how much writing I had to do, and I never enjoyed that. I don't like writing. And so I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. But then I was like, I listen to podcasts. I really enjoy podcasts. Maybe I could like put it out there that way. And so I kind of just did. I thought about it for far too long, and then I finally started. And I just talk about all the things related to building up a home that are of interest to me, like coming home to yourself, like figuring out how to, what does this person's homesteading journey look like? Why do these people homeschool? Like just all the things related to building up a home. Because I also feel like it's one of the most undervalued things in our modern society. It doesn't matter whether you work or don't work, whether it's you and a cat or you and 10 kids, or just you and your partner, like you have a home. There's this place that you come home to at the end of the day, that you want it to feel safe, and you want to feel landed, and you want to feel like you can really kick your shoes off and hang your hat and be comfortable. And there's really an art to making that happen. that's so undervalued. You know, it's not just about emptying the dishwasher so there's plates in the cupboard. Like it's so much more than that, to make a feeling, to make it comfortable, to make it so your friends feel comfortable when they come over. Like it's really an art that's so multifaceted, and it really starts, for the most part, with the woman of the house. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to, but for the most part, it does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're the nurturers of the space. And so I just wanted to talk about all the bits and pieces of how that comes together. That's kind of what I do.
It's so interesting too. You've had me on your podcast. I am not a homesteader. I'm not a homeschool mom. So again, there's space for everybody in this conversation. And I think the question that you asked me was, what does home mean to you? Was that the
Mm-hmm.
question?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, I can answer that. I can, have a download in the moment. And then I was thinking about it and I didn't spiral. It was not a spiral, but it really brought up a lot of stuff for me. And I was really surprised. So I encourage listeners to ask yourself that question and see what comes up because, it's more than your four walls, right? It's
Yeah.
so much more than your four walls. In our experience, we lived in North Carolina and then COVID happened and our company went remote, even though it was based in that area. And the house like didn't work for that life. And that's not why we moved, but it was just one of the things that we're like, how are we going to love the home, love our little piece of property, love our neighborhood, love our community? But like, we were kind of looking at like, what do we really want out of life? And it wasn't checking the boxes anymore. We decided to move back to Michigan, closer to our family. And it was so interesting to look for a home through a different lens of like, we're choosing this home that we know we're going to be in all of the time because we are remote workers. We will be at, we weren't. That was not even on our radar when we bought the last house. We're like, we need some place to come home to that we like, this is fine. And choosing was so much different this time. Our criteria was different and it had to have a certain feel. I wanted it to feel good the moment I walked into it, not like, oh, I'll put my stamp on it and it'll feel good. Like the vibes had to be correct, right? There were a couple I walked in, I was like, no, absolutely not. The vibes are off. And for me, it's like, I want to be able to put my stamp on it, but I want it to feel safe. I want it to feel inviting. I want it to feel warm. And I have had so many experiences in different homes because I moved around a lot. We had a lot of different houses, and the longest I've ever lived in one house in my life was 4 years. And when you have that experience, it's like, oh, wow, it means something a little different. And I don't know if I said this on your podcast, but I had my grandmother who lived not too far from us, and they lived in the same home forever. Like my dad grew up in that house, and she lived there until she was in her early 80s. And then she moved to Florida to be with my aunt. But like that, when I think of home, that's what I think of. I don't think of the homes. Of course, my homes were fine and safe and whatever, but like that is like the standard for
Yeah.
me, right? There's always a warm hug to greet you, and it always felt cozy and warm and just like really loving and wonderful. And it's the reason why I'm still obsessed with a brick bungalow to this day, because that has always meant like safety and security and warmth and like simple, but more than enough. So that's my home tirade. I'll stop because that is your area of expertise, but it is interesting when you consider like, what does it actually mean to me? And it can mean different things at different stages, but what does it mean to you right now?
So interesting, like the physical home, because we bought this house that I'm currently sitting in, sight unseen, sort of. So we had a realtor who went around, he took videos, we watched the videos, we're like, yeah, let's do this. And we put an offer in on a couple. One of them we pulled, some weren't, like, anyway, so they weren't meant to be. And we bought this house conditional on us coming out to view it. And it was like we only had an hour. And this property that we have there's two houses, there's a barn, there's
Wow.
acreage, there's river frontage, there's like, and we had an hour.
Wow.
And we're like, how do you see all this in an hour? But okay, we're gonna see this in an
Right.
hour.
Run.
In hindsight, like we could have asked for more time probably, or maybe the realtor should have asked for more time. I don't know, but we just kind of went, okay, we have an hour. Sounds great.
hmm
And so we flew across the country, drove, and like we're 4 hours from an airport here. So it was like a
Wow.
big journey for an hour to view this house.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, my husband was like walking around outside. And I was like, no, I need to make sure the house is right. Cause like we're uprooting our children. Um, you know, but it was this interesting balance because we moved from like a really pretty, I don't know, I always call it the what you're supposed to want style house. You know,
Mm.
we had renovated it. So it was 6 bedrooms and it had a wet bar and it had a pool and it had all the things, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then we moved to this like farmhouse that's like I don't know what the original footprint of this house is. It's clearly got at least 3 or 4 additions that they work, but like they're it's obvious they're additions at the same
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean? And it was a downsize, where we are, I don't know what the square footage was or is, but maybe 2/3 the size of what we left. And so, everyone had their own room, and now we're going to be sharing and all these sorts of things. And I remember thinking, I just want my family to know each other. Like, I need one living room, not the 3 we had before.
Wow.
I need one. We're all gonna just pile in. And I don't need a separate playroom, because then they're over there and I want them to play here. So all these things that I wanted. I wanted to have at least 4 bedrooms, which we have. And I wanted to have at least 2 bathrooms, which we have, because I was like, I don't think I could do 1 bathroom.
No.
Um, right? Family of 6, 1 bathroom just doesn't feel like something I want to take on.
No.
So, there are things that I wanted, but I was also just like, I'm okay with it being smaller. And, I have never had this much trouble keeping a house clean, between the fact that it's smaller and we have a gravel driveway and all these sorts of
Mm.
things. And I'm constantly tripping over everything because I've never not had a playroom before. And it's great. Like, it just is,
Oh,
because it's what we were like, it's where we are right now.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
what, even because I did real estate for a while, it's absolutely not what anybody ever asked for, my criteria, but it was like, everybody needs what
Yeah.
they need when they need it, right?
Oh, it's so interesting. And I love how you said that, what did you call it? The house that you're supposed to want?
Yeah.
Like that's what you had. We
Yeah.
go through these motions. It's, I think what Kathy would say, where you go unconscious, right? You're like, okay, college, check, job, check, partner, check, house, check, children, check. And then one day you have a moment and you're like, um, is this really what we want? And that was the COVID wake up call for us once we went remote and we were like, do we have to stay here? I love it here. We lived in Asheville, North Carolina. Beautiful place, beautiful place. Highly recommend everyone visits at least once. It's stunning. But to pause and really look around and go, I've cultivated this really beautiful life, right? And I've checked all the boxes, but now what? And I wonder how many of us are waking up kind of at this point. I'm 38 now. This kind of happened to me a few years ago. I'm just like, what is this actually what I want? Or is this what I thought I was supposed to have? Right. And our life doesn't look much different. We're still in one of those kind of houses, but we're much more intentional about what we bring into the house, what we're doing with the house, what kind of space we're creating, and it's really for us and what we want out of our home and out of our lives and our experience in our home.
That's what makes it cozy and comfortable, is like, you made it home, which is what
Mhm.
makes it feel inviting when a friend pops by, or what makes it feel like your kids can really unload in the good, bad, and the ugly ways that kids do,
Mhm.
right? It's like, if you're in a place that doesn't feel authentic to you and you don't feel landed in it, you can't make it a home.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if people are sitting out there with just like a little sense of dis-ease and maybe it's the home piece, And I here in the States, the market has been crazy the last few years and now interest rates are high, even though there's more supply. So I know it's not easy just to up and move, but just consider. And we know the magic of like taking inspired action and how doors start to open and things like that. It was never on our radar to move when we bought that house. I thought we were going to live there forever. It was supposed to be our forever home. And
Oh,
within 4 years, we had moved. We left the state. We had moved like 700 miles away. So just, be curious. Be curious about your space in your home and your life. And if it's something that really feels aligned, and it's not that you have to, quote, burn your life to the ground or, quote, burn your home to the ground, definitely
yeah.
figuratively speaking, of course. But just to notice and wonder and be curious if maybe there's another way or another um,
Like, sometimes it's
experience.
not about the physical space, right? Sometimes, or maybe it's a physical space, but it's just like, you really hate that green couch and you just need to get rid of that green couch because you never liked it anyway, and your mom gave it to you, and just, it can go. We
Yeah.
had a green couch at one point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it doesn't always require a move, and it doesn't always require $75,000 renovation to redo all the
Right.
floors. Like, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but it's just acknowledging, you know what? I really, really I grew up with, I don't know, I grew up with TVs in the bedroom, and I really hate having TVs in the bedroom, so I'm going to take them out and like just see how that feels. It can just be about, it's like really figuring out what you want. And that's why I talk on my podcast a lot about coming home to yourself in different ways, because you need to know what you want in order to get what you want,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes you don't know.
Right.
I've lived, this is my third forever home
Yeah.
that we've bought, my husband and I. This is the third time we've said we're never moving. And we did. And I remember the first time I said it, my mother-in-law laughed in my face kindly, but she laughed in my face. And she goes, "You're moving again just because you said that." And my
Oh,
husband was joking. He was going to put a chairlift on the stairs because he was going to be there until he was 90 and like all this stuff. And she was right. We have moved since then more than once,
mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you just don't know.
Yeah. Your husband sounds like me. After we moved in this house, I was like, you will be carting my cold, dead body out of this house. I'm never moving again. And it was more about like the action of moving itself and what a pain in the butt that is because I've done it so
Mhm,
many times. I'm
mhm,
over it.
mhm.
And this was a multi-state move this last time. It was terrible. Do not recommend doing any of that yourself. Bad idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been here 3 years now, almost exactly 3 years. And I've been like, you know, I could pay somebody to handle this next time. I could be talked into. I mean, we love our home, love our neighborhood. It's a perfect fit for us right now. This neighborhood is full of kids and there's always stuff going on in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is great and our neighbors are lovely, but I can see a point in the future where this may not be the best fit for us and then what will be next, right? Even
Mhm,
though actually we could live here until we're 90 because all of our main stuff is on the entry level. Um,
mhm.
but yeah, never say never, right?
Famous last words.
Yeah, always, always. You're right. Like as soon as you say it, it's like, oh, that is set. You signed your contract. You will be moving at some point for sure. Oh my
It's true.
gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's funny, right? What is it? We make plans and God laughs
Oh, every time.
every time.
You must have a really good time watching us.
Can you imagine? Especially on that scale. That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with all of your responsibilities and having people in your space all the time, how do you reconnect to yourself in motherhood?
Oh, not well, sometimes I feel. If I'm
It's
gonna
a
be perfectly
practice.
honest. Yeah, I feel like the things that when I'm consistent with them that really fuel me are just it's the simple things, like getting up before my children and like today I got up at the unholy hour of 20 after 4, not on purpose. I did not have an alarm set for 20 after
Oh
4,
my
but I woke
gosh.
up, the chickens were already crowing, the birds are already singing. I looked at the clock and I went, I mean, I may as well. I
Oh
have
my
to, my
gosh.
alarm's set for 45 minutes from now, so I'll just do it now. And I feel like I'm probably going to be, in spite of the fact that 4:20 is ridiculously early and I'm probably going to need a quiet time this afternoon, I'm going to be a better mom today. I know I am because I didn't get up in chaos. I got up when it was quiet. My husband wasn't even up yet because who gets up at 4:20 in the morning, right? So I stepped
Hmm.
outside and my dogs were already roaming around outside. So, we had a bit of a dog moment and then I had a warm drink and like it just I got to go slowly, and I washed my hair without anyone jumping in the bathroom and saying what's taking you so long. Like these things that they seem so small, but they make such a difference. And when it's the less chaos there is, the easier it is for me to be like, okay, what do I even want from today? Where do I want to go with today? Like there are certain things that are going to happen and what do I want to happen in the other moments? Um, so the getting up before my children is such a big one that I'm not good at being consistent about because, you get tired or you justify it this way or whatever the case may be. So I feel like
Hmm.
that's a huge one for me. And one that I'm even worse at is having a hobby.
Oh yeah.
um, like there are lots of things that I love, but so few of them I do for me. And sometimes I get stuck in that mom guilt moment of like my podcast is a passion project for me. That's the main thing that it is. It's not part of this business that I run or something like that. Like it's a passion project, and who knows where it'll go. And for right now, that's what it is. And the conversations I have with people, like that fuels me. And then sometimes I sit there and I'm like, I have this interview that I've booked that I was really excited about, but the kids want to this and the kids wanted that. And I feel like I should reschedule or what have you because the kids, I'm like, I don't need to. They can be told we're not going to go to the beach today. Sorry, guys. Mom's got
Right.
a thing and it's okay. I spend 99% of my week around them. The couple of times that I'm doing something else, it's okay. So those are the two things that I feel like are the way that I connect back to me the best that I'm not very good at doing.
I hear you, even though I preach it like weekly, I love getting up before my kids and having a slow morning. I love to try to meditate in the mornings, but sometimes the snooze button wins, right? It's a fact of life. And the hobby thing I struggle with too, because even I love my podcast. I'm obsessed with my podcast.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes it falls into feeling a little bit like work, even though it is a passion project. It takes a lot of work to have a podcast. Still worth it if anybody wants to have one. Still so worth it. Um,
100%.
but I can see where it's like the balance of like this is for me, and I do owe it to myself for my own podcast and to show up on these other podcasts and have these empowering conversations with other women. So I'm so glad you're doing it, but also you're setting such a good example for your kids, even if they're frustrated with you or or like the instance we had where your little one told you how she
You're
thought about
mean.
you.
He
It's
literally
gonna
called
be
me mean.
so good for them to see that like mom did say no, but she was doing something for herself. And then when they're older, giving themselves the power to be like, you know what? I'm not available for that right now, but I'm not saying no forever. I'm just saying no in this moment. And I can have this time for me that I so need because so many of us, moms especially, but in general, we're running around so depleted and so exhausted and doing things for other people all the time and putting ourselves last. And I think that's one of our biggest problems is we're just so worn out collectively. We're just worn out and it's not serving anybody at all.
And you know what? So like I said, I got up really early and I'm probably going to be a better mom, even though I'm going to need to lie down. I just want to add, I've never, ever gotten on a podcast interview where I was a guest or I was interviewing someone and walked away from that feeling anything other than 1,000 times better than when I started,
Hmm.
because they're such amazing conversations and I've met so many incredible people that I just like, I can't imagine not doing it, even in the moments when I'm like, oh, maybe I should just cancel this one. I can't imagine not doing it at the same time because it is fantastic. And I've started most of my friends because we moved so far when we were already parents and homeschooling. And so most of my friends I've gotten from that community. So we have kids. And I have started, threatening my kids that I'll go to the homeschool meetup without them if they don't want to come. And I'll just leave them home with dad doing chores because I'm just like, that's me time. Like you guys go play with your friends and I get to play with mine.
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
anyway.
Right. With or without
Right.
you.
Yeah, I don't want to not see my friends because you don't want to go play at the park today. I'm going to the park and I'll sit on the bench and I'll chat to any mom who's not distracted by their child. Like
Yeah. Right.
it's
I
fantastic.
know.
And
I
those are the
know.
things that for a while, I was like, no, it's a homeschool meetup. I'm not going to show up without my children. There's no reason why I can't show up without my children. They're my friends.
Right.
And
Right.
we need that time.
100%. We need the connection. This
Mhm.
has been a theme that is kind of coming around more frequently in my world lately is like the need for female connection and
Okay.
how it has been demonized over the centuries. And that is a whole other topic for another day. But
Yes.
yeah, it is really powerful and really important when women come together. Even if you think you're just having girl time and like girl chatting, like it's still so needed and so necessary. Um, and I'm glad a lot of us are waking up to that, but that's a tirade I will not go on today.
The area we live in, we're rural. A lot of other people have, whether they have chickens or they have a garden or they have something, right? And one of the best moments I had on this journey is I was making butter, and I was so stressed about making butter. And my friend was like, "Why didn't you call me and have me make butter with you?" So the next time I made butter, I did call her, and it did not take any less time. And her kids and my kids were outside till like 10:30 at night playing because we got so distracted making butter. But it was one of those things where you hear about the sewing circles of days of old or whatever, and it was like one of those moments where we just we were silly and we laughed and we got the butter done, and it took forever and it didn't feel like it
Yeah,
because we're meant to do so many things in community and we just aren't.
I know. I know that. Yeah, I'm inspired to have many, many more conversations about that because it is just so ingrained in our culture now that we're just so in our own. It's interesting, especially when you live in a neighborhood like we do. Like I can see houses everywhere, but we all are living our own little lives inside of our own little bubbles. And sure, there is some overlap sometimes, but like we all have our own little worlds and we've gotten so comfortable just doing it all alone. But it's hard. We shouldn't have to. Mm,
And it's too hard.
it's
It
too hard.
that's why we're so depleted and exhausted, and you know that's why
Mm,
the days are hard because we're not meant to do it alone.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I hate to do it, but I think we have to put a pin in it there because I know there is a football field's worth of information in that statement alone. So
Mhm.
Thank you, Kathryn, so much for being here. I've loved this conversation so much. Can you please tell everyone where they can find your podcast and where they can follow you?
Yeah. I am not very active on social media, but I am there sometimes. So I'm on Instagram as homespun.kathryn. Kathryn is Kathryn. And I am on Facebook as Kathryn Garland. And my podcast is called Homespun Create the Life You Crave. So that's where you can find me.
Yeah, and it's not just for homesteaders, friends.
No,
It's for
it's not.
anyone.
It's true. We don't actually talk about homesteading that much.
Yeah, so good. Kathryn, thank you so much for your time today. This has been so insightful. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for this space, Shannon. It was really great.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and for sharing this space with us today. Before you go, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources mentioned in today's episode. And hey, while you're at it, why not give me a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Having a Mom Moment? You can also visit havingamaMoment.com for even more mom-inspired resources. If you've enjoyed today's conversation as much as I have, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on future episodes. And it would mean so much if you leave us a glowing 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, remember to embrace those mom moments, find alignment in your journey, and always honor the incredible woman you are. Take care, friends, and we'll see you on the next episode.